Don't start. Don't. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
What were you saying about?
I was asking if I missed any announcements.
No.
Cool.
Good.
You can do pseudo minus
Good choice. I'm planning to add a few things before I get started. So wait a bit longer. Actually, can you three move either to the back or to the front so that the camera can see the screen?
Go away.
David.
Yeah, I mean you can move to outside the room.
So how do you actually spell this?
Oh yeah, well.
It's fine off when you do this. No, it isn't.
Moving hard.
Wait, I've got. So says Steve, you didn't know that.
It's really quite good.
It's Steam gaming, but lots.
Pseudo.
I looked briefly.
It's totally low gaming everything. No, just by the custody.
Yeah, I looked at the start and I was like, what is Also, I've noticed that your channel has like 20,000 views on it, which is obviously
That's because I I do have quite a challenge, so if it dark, then it does the opposite. Because
Do you like
it's just honourable, but it's dark, it's like sneaky point 6-1. It's just like
No, that's not I think I've tried this.
you want to actually leave that shit. Do control.
That's what we get.
But you know, it's not trying to store your operating system.
Oh my god. Reboot. Pseudo reboot.
Largely Tom.
Say the goes wrong.
Oh,
Hope that they don't hit an
Well, if you do, I'll show you how to stop it.
Yeah.
I've got these. I'll probably say I think I'm
Did you try sending the output stuff? No, did you try sending STD air output?
I don't I tried to
You did. The first step is to yeah. And then so you run a double face up and then you put two. And that just stops it from ever happening. Well, actually, technically, it's the outputs it, but the outputs it to zeros anything that gets written to it. So.
Okay, I don't mean this in a bad way, but I'm surprised that.
Go on.
You never play anyone. Come on, board. This is you trying to get expert.
I think I'm not sure that they can.
I mean, maybe.
I don't
about that, but if I think they might have taken the other day.
So
So
If
this,
it was
okay, so
conversion.
It's also for someone who's never done this stuff before, where you want to have their different intake. Like if you've got no just pick X, but the all programs are awesome, it doesn't really make a decent game, and it's for someone who's saying no idea what's going on.
Get like CEOs of different
Yeah,
companies.
and
So as long as
then
it
two,
can't be
Moving strictly.
then
it's perfect.
and one.
Very
Makes
different.
sense.
You know,
That should not shit out.
That's good. That's good. Okay.
Now what do you do?
Hello there then.
Who's equal ops?
What?
It's like, isn't it?
That's fine. That is empowering blind people. So yeah, I'm talking about graphics, or rather, I'm basically giving examples of games that have good graphics to cover up the fact that I don't actually know how to do it myself. Because I don't actually know an awful lot about making my games look good. For example, about 6 months ago, I made a game that looks like this. Oh yeah. In my defense, I made it in about 4 hours, but in my anti-defense, I'm about to give you like a whole load of tips that I could have used to make this maybe not look great, but look significantly better than this. This does just about everything wrong. So the first thing you could try if you want to have good graphics is collaborating with somebody, because that game now looks like that. It looks better in motion because all the blocks are sort of wriggling about and animating. But like this is somebody who's not me making graphics. So that's something you could try if you want to have good graphics. Where do you find an artist to work with? Here is good. I'm sure at least some people in this room can draw better than you, unless you're the best artist in the room, in which case you have to find the second best artist in the room and fight. If you're going to look online, probably the best place to look is TigSource. There's a forum, like TigSource is a set of forums, and there's one forum on there which is basically for people post their artwork and say, hey, I want to work on something, or you post a project and say, hey, I want an artist for this project. And in theory, everybody gets together and makes lovely games together. There's Twitter. Maybe that's not particularly useful. I've had some success with posting on Twitter, but unless you have a lot of followers, maybe not. But it's worth, like, if you are looking for an artist and you have a Twitter, yes, you should have a Twitter, because lots of cool game dev people on Twitter, then it might be worth posting on there just anyway. Something to bear in mind with a collaboration is it shouldn't be just you bossing somebody about saying, this is what I want, now go do my bidding. Fun though that sounds, it probably won't be as fun for the person you're working with. So it should ideally be a proper collaboration, like you find somebody who you tell them your idea and they go, wow, that's a great idea, and what if you did this? And oh, I hadn't even thought of that. And like, if you have two people working on a project, you'll often get, like, if you can both work on the design, then that's pretty much always a good thing. So yeah, expect to go in and actually like have some back and forth. And like, it's not just a case of saying, I want this, now go do it. Like, or a case of saying, I don't have a clue what I want, but come up with something. Like, you should be able to talk on the same page about the stuff you're coming up with. If, however, you don't want to find an artist, or you can't find an artist, then you're going to have to make the graphics yourself. But fortunately, you can do better than my first example. The first rule of making good graphics is make everything look consistent. I asked people for their helpful hints on graphics, and about 90% of what people said had the word consistent in it. Your graphics should feel coherent. So that means pick something and apply it to everything. Don't use one technique for one art asset and another for another. You should use the same constraints for all of the things in your game. Good place to start is to have a consistent color palette. So if that was rule 0, if being consistent is the single most important thing you can do to make your game look good, then picking a good color scheme is definitely the second most important thing. You should choose nice colors. Like, it's really easy to default for, oh, I need to pick a color, oh, okay, let's go for full red, 0 blue, 0 green. Yeah, everybody loves really saturated red colors. And then maybe I'll put it on a bright white background. Maybe this thing will be black and this thing will be bright pink. Don't do that. Like, saturated colors should really be avoided. They pretty much never look good. All you have to do is choose a color and then tone saturation way down, and it will look better. You should also not use pure black and white. Just choose a color that's slightly off from those, and it will look better. A good trick with pretty much everything I'm about to talk about is constrain yourself in some way. Constraints are really useful. Even if you don't know the first thing about making art, if you get a set of constraints and then you have to work with them, you'll probably, like, if they're tight enough, if they're restrictive enough, you're probably going to stumble across something that looks good. Whereas if you just let yourself go, oh, I can do anything I want, then you'll probably make something that's crappy, because there's a lot more crappy stuff than good stuff. So for a colour palette, for example, you can limit yourself to 4 colours to 16 colours, pick them at the start and never use any other colours. And as long as you pick a good set of colours that work well together, then hopefully it'll look good at the end. So some examples of games that use restrictive colour palettes well. So this is Don't Look Back by Terry Kavanagh. This uses exactly 4 colours throughout the entire game, no more, no less, and it uses them really well. Like, it will shift what colour the background is, what colour the floor is. So later on in the game, you'll go to a dark cave, and the background is black, the floor is black, and so you're jumping around in the dark because you can't see where the terrain is. And that's just a mechanical thing that comes out of, oh, I only have 4 colours to work with. Oh, well, I want to change it up a bit. What can I do? Okay, let's make the floor the same colour as the background. Great. So this is a really good example of using a limited colour palette well. So this is my game. These Erotic Hearts are mine. It uses black, white, grey and pink. And it looks better for having fewer colours. This is another game of mine. It's a game about a magician doing an escapology act. So he's stuck in a box and his assistant is poking swords in, and he's got to avoid the swords as long as possible. I didn't really know what it should look like, and then I was talking to Jasper Bine, who made Lone Survivor, and he suggested that it should look something like the image on the left, this cool magician image that we found on Google Images. So I just drew some terrible graphics in that style, and it doesn't look great. Let's be honest here, because I still can't draw, and you can see, like, I've made like several poor judgment calls. Like, I've tried to draw the shoelaces on the boots, which is not really necessary, and it doesn't look great. But the fact that it's just monochrome, black and white, means that it looks passable. And when he gets stabbed by a sword, you get red blood, which is contrasting and it stands out, and that looks okay. A better example of a monochrome game, Limbo. So this uses this very cool silhouette art style throughout the entire game. Everything you see is silhouetted against the grayscale background, and it just looks really, really nice. And a lot of the reason it looks nice is because of the really good art style. And obviously, it does help a lot that it's got some really good art as well as a really good set of constraints to work with. Like, if you just sat down and said, oh, I'm going to make something like Limbo, all I need to do is have some silhouette stuff, then it wouldn't look great because your silhouettes would probably look not as good as that awesome spider. But it would still be a cohesive art style. So it would be significantly better than just throwing things together slapdash. Another good example of color palettes is Proteus. The developer just has a really good way of picking amazing colors. I'm going to bring up the trailer because it's just a beautiful game. Frankly, you could probably spend a whole hour just talking about the graphics, what you can learn about good graphics from Proteus. And one thing to note is that all the images here, all the 3D entities, they're all just block colors. This is just billboarding. You've got flat graphics, single color. These trees, they're just a single tree-shaped image. Like the foliage is just a single image facing towards the player. But it looks great because of the whole art. The whole art style is designed to work around that concept. You have clouds, which are just blocks of colour blocking out the sky. So yeah, that game looks great. This is a colour palette that I've used in the past to good effect. If you search for ARM 16 colour palette, you'll come up with it. Just take the colours and use them, because this is what an actual artist has come together and put them up and said, hey, these ones actually work nicely together. And these are some tools that you can use to automatically generate colour palettes. Some of these are sites where people can go and submit colour palettes that they like. Some are you give it a colour or an image and it automatically generates a compatible colour palette. So there's some good tools out there to work with colour palettes and help you not have to come up with them yourself. Rule 0, be consistent. It's really, really important. So with pixel art, that means that means don't mix pixel resolutions. It pretty much always looks terrible. And as with color palettes, one thing you can really do to help yourself make good pixel art is have to not make a lot of it. So make it really small size so that all of your images are 16 by 16 or smaller. If you've got to squeeze something into 16 by 16, then you're probably a lot more likely to stumble across something that looks okay than if you've got a 300 by 300 image that you're trying to fit a player character into. This is one of the reasons that pixel art is just a classic, I can't do art, what should I do? Hey, pixel graphics. it's cliche, but it's also really true. Pixel art, like it's still a lot of work to create something that looks amazing, but it's pretty doable to come up with pixel art that looks passable. And there are lots of tutorials online for making good pixel art. So some examples. This is another game of mine called Legend of Parasite. I'd say that this is the best art that I've ever created. And the reason that is because somebody else gave me the constraints I had to work with him. They gave me, so I used the colour palette that I showed a few slides before, and I was told that for each sprite in the game, I'm only allowed to use 3 colours. Black, white, and one other colour per sprite. And that's really a tight constraint to work, and they're also all 16 by 16 pixels or smaller. So that's a really tough, like to make these things look like the things, I'm totally ripping them off. There's not a lot of scope to go wrong. I know what I want them to look like, so I put the vague details in, and they pretty much have to fit where they are, or it doesn't work at all. So that's really useful.
The limelight's got 2 other colours.
Yeah, I know. I cheated with light. It doesn't look good with the white instead of the pale yellow. But you are allowed to get away from restrictions if you really have to. But it's still. I wouldn't have come up with this if I didn't have the restrictions to start from, and then you can ignore them, but try not to. I'm going to show that in motion because I'm really proud of it. So yeah, you can see that all these guys are animated, and the what's its face, the Octorok is totally a different view to the others. Like he's top down, whereas the others are all side on. But who cares? If I was going to go back to this, I'd fix that up. But yeah. So like I said, these are the best graphics that I think I've ever come up with, and it's because I had a small set of constraints to work with it. Some other stuff to note here is that the terrain, it's just tiled. Like there's grass, there's water, there's rocks. But then I did a post-process effect to kind of add lines to highlight the transitions. So it looks like the rocks are coming up from the grass, and the grass is coming up from the water. And there's some randomness in there, so it doesn't look like it's just there's a hard line between them. It does a bit of the line that's drawn between them changes a bit, and that's a nice trick if you can have some simple source data. So it's just one tile per tile, but then do some processing to make it look different. Okay. Some better pixel art. This is what you can do with a really tight color palette. This is VVVVV by Terry Kavanagh again. It just looks good. It's not super high res. This is probably scaled up twice or something. Not that you can probably tell on a projector or whatever. But all the graphics are functional, and no individual graphic in this game would take too much effort. I say that knowing that probably like a lot of them were obsessed over to get like the right detail and like get them completely right. But this art style, you can approximate this quickly. This is another game of mine. So this is a case of really low res art. You can see the player character here. He's over here. That's a 3x4 player character. That's pretty much the smallest you can get and still be obviously humanoid. And that's pretty much what I was trying to do here. That have a really, originally this was going to be in a 48 by 32 pixel game, and then I scaled it up a bit for a different competition. But that idea of how small a game area can I work with is the complete inspiration for this game. The character moves in pixel increments. He jumps in pixel increments, which feels a bit weird, but means that you can do some interesting stuff. And again, so the graphical constraint of a really small game, image size-wise, completely helped me make something that's, it doesn't look great, but it has its own style, it's coherent. And again, this only has 4 images, 4 colours. It has black, white, blue and red. Everything that's dangerous is blue, everything that's good is red, and everything that's solid is black. Super simple. Anybody can create something that looks this simple. Some more examples of some really small size games. So Nitrome have been making Flash games for a very long time. Recently they've started making these icon games, which are games played in a 50 by 50 pixel playable area. And they are better games for being constrained to this small space. And they look pretty good too. And the one on the right here, it's graphically looks, you can see what's going on there. And the player character is a 5 by 6 pixel square. But he's got a face. You don't need a lot of pixels to express things. So I really do recommend, if you can't come up with a graphical style, just try making your game in a really small playable space and seeing what the graphics look like as a result. Be consistent. It wouldn't work if these games had a 3 pixel by 4 pixel playable character and then everything else was, but that was scaled up, but all the enemies were really detailed, so you'd have them being the same size on screen, but the player was way less detailed than the enemy. Just make everything consistent. Another trick you can do to make things look decent but fairly simple is just use vector graphics. Just lines and abstract shapes. This is Super Hexagon, a game by Terry Kavanagh. He just has a lot of games that come to mind when I think of this kind of thing. And again, this looks so good that I need to show you it being played. A screenshot doesn't do it justice. So you can see that as well as these graphics being just block shapes, the colours are just shifting over time. And that's a really nice technique. So yeah, this looks great. The individual parts of it don't look anything special, but when you add them together, it just looks lovely. Another game with vector graphics, classic example, Geometry Wars. Every single enemy is just made up of lines. But that doesn't matter, because it goes crazy overboard on the particle effects and the glow and all the fancy stuff you put on top of that. So it doesn't actually matter what the enemies look like, because they look amazing when you blow them to pieces, and they just burst into a spatter of particles. All of the particles glowing, and like the background like shaking because it's like it's a grid, but it ripples when explosions happening. The actual graphics aren't important. You can get away with very abstract graphics as long as you're, again, consistent about it. More abstract shapes. Thomas Was Alone is a platformer. It's a platformer in which the playable character is a red square or a red rectangle. That's all it is. There's other characters that you can control. They're all different coloured rectangles. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I mean, this screenshot, you've got some water there. That's not that involved. You've got some lighting effects. Those lighting effects are just quads. It's just a rectangle rotated and drawn on the screen. It doesn't have to be complicated art assets to look good. That platform is just a black rectangle, but it doesn't matter because the whole art style is cohesive. Impasse is a game made by Wonderlands. One of the people there is Harry Lee, who I'm now working with. This is a puzzle game, and it's a really elegant puzzle game. It teaches everything without explicitly telling you what to do or having any introductory tutorial text or anything. It's just gameplay. You move and you see how things react. But the graphics are really simple. It's just circles. The player circle has a plus. Some moving things have arrows. The grey circles you can't move onto. It's really simple, and the end is a green check mark. I mean, that is self-explanatory. It doesn't look complicated, but this game does not need to look complicated. This expresses everything it needs to express. I'm now working with Harry on our game Soccer Bond. It's about atoms trying to form chemicals. All you need for that is circles with the lettering for that atom. It doesn't look complicated, but it all looks good together. Moving into 3D, I mean, the classic example of 3D shapes that aren't complicated is Minecraft. Minecraft is just cubes. A lot of the fact that Minecraft looks good, however, is the fact that they're really nice textured cubes. And that gets back to pixel art, and the textures in Minecraft are better than you can expect a beginner to come up with. But that's not the reason that cubes look nice. So this is Voxatron by Lexaloffle Games. These are just block colour cubes. And everything in the game world is made up of cubes. Like the rendering engine is actually specific. It can't render anything that's not an axis aligned cube. It is rendering voxels. And each voxel has a colour, and they move about, and it just creates nice looking shapes. English Country Tune by Stephen Lavelle is another beautiful puzzle game, and its graphics, they're really abstract, but I mean, in a game about manoeuvring in a 3D space, like you need to be moving on a grid of squares, a grid of cubes, and it doesn't need to look like all AAA. There's bloom everywhere. There's realistic grass. You can do a lot with abstract shapes. I think this game looks really nice. Be consistent with whatever you do. You can put screen filters onto a game, and just you render it with something dull, and then you post-process everything and make it look better. So At a Distance, oh man, a game by Terry Kavanagh. The graphics in this are, it's literally just 3D shapes with a single colour, which wouldn't look great. I mean, it would look okay, but then there's this really weird and unique dithering thing going on, which is it dithers the image based on how far away it is, and like there's a lighting system in there, but the lighting system feeds into the dithering algorithm rather than the colour and the shade of the images, and it looks unique as a result. For pixel art, if you've got a low-res pixel game and you scale that up, you've got a lot of screen pixels per game pixel. You can do interesting things with that. In this game, I'm not sure if it comes out particularly well here, but this is a low-res pixel game, but each pixel has like shading applied, so it looks like the pixels are individual things. And you can take that a load of different ways. I think there was a game made from post-it notes, like where all the graphics were post-it notes, and you've got one post-it note per pixel, and that looks great. You've got things like cross-stitch. You can make a cross-stitch game, because in the end that's just pixels. So you can do some interesting filtering effects after you've blown up a low-res pixel game. Lone Survivor takes this another step again. It's got the same thing going in as in the previous image, but then there's a whole load of extra screen effects applied on top of that, and you can't really see it in a screenshot, but in motion it looks really, really nice, and sometimes it's hard to see what's actually going on, but there's a reason for that, because it's that style that he was going for. So again, I think we've covered that. You shouldn't really use the default, like whatever you're using, the default font is probably going to be incredibly generic. I know whenever I see a game made in Flashpunk that doesn't change the font, I cringe, because the E is so terrible. It just looks ugly. But it doesn't even matter what the font is, because if it's a default, then it's probably going to be overused. So take the time to find a nice font. It might take a couple of hours, because there are a lot of fonts out there, but it's totally worth it. There are sites which let you search fonts and all that. So definitely think about your use of fonts. And I hate that I am a person who says that. But I mean, while we're on the subject of text, who actually needs graphics? You can make games without graphics, just using text. Interactive fiction games, they're still games. They're interesting. They're fun. I'm a big fan of Twine. I made an interactive fiction game in Twine called Shit Snake 2 Shit Harder, about playing a game and then your girlfriend, she gets annoyed because you're playing this game, and then you have an argument, and then she storms off, and it gets increasingly surreal, and there's no way I could have made that game in anything that wasn't text, because it would just be too weird. The reason that game got so weird is because I was just typing and it was just stream of consciousness. You can't do that if you're having to program. So yeah, I'm a big fan of trying something different, making interactive fiction games. Roguelikes, in which the player character is generally an @ symbol. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you can do a graphically cohesive game that just uses text. Dwarf Fortress is an insane game, and you literally could not do that game if you had to create art assets for everything in it. The only reason that is possible is because it's just text. There's no reason that just using and you can use text in non-roguelike style games. Like you can have a platformer game where all the platforms are just text. It would be weird, but it would be a cohesive graphical style, and that's what's important. Some other effects that I'm going to quickly cover because I didn't have time to find examples for each and every one of them. Screen shake is really a useful effect. You should use it sparingly because if your game is just rumbling the whole time, you can't see anything and it just gets distracting. But a well-timed screen shake will make things really good. No. How? That's fine. So you've got screen shake at the beginning. This game possibly overuses it, but it's a good example. And it looks great too. I mean, I didn't use it as an example before because these are not graphics that you could just quickly knock up and say, yeah, that'll do. This is good graphics made by somebody who knows how to make good graphics. But this game uses screen shake very well. Like there's something flying, you can hear something flying around in the background, and the screen shakes to know that you can feel it. Particles. So here's a game I made. This is great. This is Get Out Forever. Doesn't this look good, guys? So this is the original version. I made this in about 4 hours. It doesn't particularly look like much, but at least the colours aren't completely saturated. That's one good thing. But this is the later version I made. So there's several things going on here. First thing I want to draw your attention to, every time I hit a block, a bunch of particles come out. Then I can play with the particles, that's even better. The background is changing colour. There's not really much reason for it to do that, but it makes it look slightly more interesting. It's more interesting than just looking at a static colour the whole time. The ball, it leaves this trail behind it. The way it does that is that it's not completely clearing the screen every frame. It's clearing the screen like 90%, but there's this faint after image of what was there the previous frame. And that just naturally gives this trail effect. You can see where things have been. Like the particles have that too, and that's free because I'm already doing it to the whole screen. So yeah, this game instantly looks a whole lot better just because of particles and that trail behind the ball and music. But like can't really mention that in a talk about graphics, but music. Glowiness. Okay, yeah, so I've got something to demo this one as well. So this is just a single image. It's this isn't a game. This is just a plaything. Like, it doesn't even respond to it. But so the original one of these was made by Charlie Knight of Charlie's Games. He makes cool shooters with lots of bloom and glow and particles. So this is just a circular image, resized, sometimes stretched, because the legs of this thing, it's not a line, it's a stretched circle. So everything in here is just one graphic with an additive blending mode and different colours and different scaling, and a lot of maths to make it move about the screen the way it does. And it just looks really cool. This is just glowing things, and it looks cool. So yeah, make things glow. More things should glow. Okay, I've got something to demonstrate this one too. Add faces to things. It makes them look better. Everybody loves a smiley face. What's this project even called? Somebody, yeah, happy bit to catch. So you can see the sleeping ones, like, you can tell that they're sleeping. Like, they just look like that. And then when they get hit off, they smile. And it's all rather lovely. Another thing that's going on here is that over time there's more and more flowers. And because I've been playing long enough, the sun came out and he's all happy. And look, he's watching the balls. Oh, now there's a rainbow. Isn't this nice?
You monster.
Yeah, I am. So this just works because of the faces. And like I could go further, and like I could make them detect if they think they're going to go off screen, and then make them change expression based on that. So yeah, just add smiley faces to things, and these are just abstract shapes, like I was saying before.
How many bricks must die?
For the greater good. So yeah, like, these are just squares. These are just rectangles. But the reason it works is because they're smiling.
You monster.
And like, you could go further and make them like emit happy shouts and then go no when they die. And the reason I think to do that is because they have faces. Tweening, I couldn't find a good example for this, like specifically. There's a good example in one of the talks that I'm going to link to in video form, which you should all watch. But basically, tweening is where you have some attribute of a thing and you make it go from one value to another over time. So you can change the size of something, like when you hit a block, if it's going to disappear, rather than making it instantly bland disappear. If you make it scale down to 0, it looks a lot better. So this is something I demonstrated before. You can do a lot with one sprite scaling, rotation, and blending. It doesn't need to be a circle. It could be something weird. Like if every art asset, like if you only have one art asset in your game, it's going to look consistent. It's going to look really weird, but probably in a cool way. So try playing with that. This is a trick I mentioned to get the trail behind the ball in that game. Just if you clear the buffer to 90% of what it was, then you get a faint after image of what was there before, and you get nice trails. And it works well with like glowing and particles and stuff. whatever you do, be consistent with it. Here's some games that you would think would look terrible, but because they take an art style and just go with it, they get away with it. So MS Paint graphics. The graphics in this game, I believe, were literally drawn in MS Paint, with not a particular eye to quality of individual assets, but it's a cohesive style. It works. It looks even better in animation, in movement. Sissy's Magical Ponycorn Adventure is a game written and drawn by a 5-year-old girl. You can, like, if a 5-year-old girl can draw, so can you. So just draw something, anything. Don't make any efforts to make it look good. Just draw it, scan it in, put it in your game. It will look distinctive, and distinctive is good. You can get away with a whole lot if it's distinctive. So this is a game called Fruitorious. These guys, they said, we don't have an artist and we can't draw, so we make stuff out of plasticine and felt and photograph it. It literally took 2 hours to make all the characters. That's a unique graphical style. It's really distinct. You could say that it doesn't look good, but it looks original, and it does look good, even if it doesn't look what you expect it to look like, or what you expect a game to look like. That's what I'm saying here. Ignoring all the rules. This game is great. This is the last game, and I have to play it because you can't even see what's going on in that screenshot. Once again by Terry Kavanagh. Go away. So this ignores all the rules I've just been saying about. You can't even see what's going on. I don't even know what killed me. I
am so confused.
So, yeah.
I feel violated by this game.
Yeah.
Eyes.
So there you are. That's, I don't even know how to pronounce that. You can get away with it. Probably not many people are going to play it. Probably people will complain that you killed their eyes, but you can get away with it. These are a couple of videos that are really, really worth watching. They're more worth watching than watching me. So really, instead of getting me to talk for the last hour, you should have just put these on back to back. I'll post them on the forum, and you should really watch them because they're great. If people want to delay going to the pub, I'll show you a snippet from one of them because it's just that good. Any questions? Yeah?
You put those slides on the forums?
I will do, yeah. Yeah. Anything else? Cool. Do you want to go to the pub, or do you want to watch 5 to 10 minutes of video? That's good. I'll post everything on the forum. Some other stuff. Upload your games from the last competition. There's a thread on the forums. There's no excuse. Your games should be online. Make them online. There's a competition on TikTok with the theme of sports. If you have an idea for a sports-related game, consider joining it. There's a competition called Factory Jam. The idea of this is you make a game in a genre you hate. It's a cool idea. Next week we're playing games. It's going to be fun. if you have a friend and they enjoy something like having fun, they'll enjoy this.
What kind of games do you play? Playing games like that last one you did? Or?
No, we'll be playing games without any video-ness whatsoever.
I missed it last year.
Yeah.
Oh, you've got something.
What could be termed playground games?
It's really this part is really awesome. And before everybody else,
That wouldn't.
touring competition starting now, so we're doing it. I assume the 15th of November showcase. Suggested theme: make a game that's in a screen resolution of 80 by 60 pixels.
80 by 60.
The key this is because the screen res you've got is not there, so I don't want to be a complete square. I think base for 60 or something like that. Or pick up anything you want from that engine tool to use if you want to try something out, or anything else. Yes, exactly. Also, where's Jack?
Jack Rockford. Anyone Jack
yeah.
Rockford?
I don't think you did.
Okay. What? No? I thought you were Jack.
Oh well, never mind.
Why do you watch Jack?
It's to do with the uni jam.
Okay.
Well, I've got that two in death now anyway.
Obviously, driving. Well, you're driving. Well, I'll be cycling.
Yeah, I'll wait on the roundabout.
Very cool. Slash animation.